Welcome one and all to another day, another week here at The Damage Report. I am John Iadarola. Joining us as always, Francesca Fiorentini, host of the Bitchuation Room. How's it going?
Hi, it's going. I'm just celebrating the birth of a nation. You know what I'm saying?
And we should give honor and praise to the birth of a nation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
America.
Yeah.
No,
you didn't do it.
Throughout your history, you've been killing it.
Killing it. Too much killing happening.
Yeah.
But no, good to be here with you. I didn't know we were gonna do the show, and then I got a call 3 minutes ago. I was like, oh man, I'm on the show. I didn't actually, but
because I sent the email last night.
No, I know.
Okay, good. Well, you're up and at 'em, which is good considering you're still mid sleep. But anyway, very glad to have you here because we do have a lot to talk about. Heads up that tomorrow. This show will not be happening, and not because I sound like I might be dying right now. No, it will be for the holiday. There will still be content going up on the YouTube channel, so definitely check that out. The full show will not be happening. We will be doing our top 10 list for members, so that'll be going out later on today too. And lots to look forward to once we resume things. I believe Big News Wednesdays will once again have J.R. Jackson, so that's very exciting. And later on this week, I am very excited that we will be rejoined once again after far too long of a wait by Gary Chambers, one of my favorite people from back in 2020, 2021, doing the show with. We're gonna be doing that again, so lots to look forward to there, and then probably Brett later on. But anyway, we got a lot that we're gonna be talking about through the course of today. Michael Schor hitting the Trump rallies, talking to MAGA people. Where did they draw the line for support of Donald Trump? Michael doing a great job there. We've got some proposals for reform of the Supreme Court that we'll be discussing. Super PAC desperately trying to make Ron DeSantis look cool, and in doing so, might have produced an ad so homophobic that even a lot of Republicans can't get behind it. So that'll be fun. And some stuff happened with Twitter over the weekend, which we definitely need to jump into. There's a lot, that's just in the first hour. We got fun stuff in the aftermath as well, so you're not gonna wanna miss it. We're gonna be talking about flying cars and politicians fake cheating on their fake mistresses, I guess. I don't know, something with AI, but it looks pretty bad. With that said, please hit the like button, share the stream if you haven't already, so that people know we're live. They can join in the conversation. And with all that said, Francesca, you ready to do this thing?
Yes.
Okay, well, we wanted to start off with a little bit of fun. I think I can speak for all of us that this is pretty fun. Take a look at this.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome United States Senator Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, we decided to cut it at that point, but that went on for a little bit. Lindsey Graham not receiving a warm welcome from that crowd. That's a Trump rally. It's in South Carolina. He's been invited by Donald Trump to speak, and he has defended Donald Trump day after day for years. None of that has bought him any support whatsoever. These people hate his guts, Francesca. What do you think?
I mean, you can't win. You're never gonna win. So why have you been trying? I mean, Lindsey Graham, doesn't he have a book he wants to write? I guess he's still currently in office, so this is the problem. You have to lick Trump's boots until you decide you're no longer, gaining your money by being a politician, and then you can again write your little book. So yeah, he's got to keep licking the boots. He has to keep twisting himself into pretzel knots to just defend Donald Trump. It doesn't matter what it is. The one thing Lindsey Graham, I'm trying to think, and the daylight between Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump has been about Ukraine, right? Lindsey Graham believes we should be supporting Ukrainian aid. He's not Marjorie Taylor Greene, he's not Boebert. Ted Cruz, push comes to shove, I don't know where he comes down on Ukraine. But yeah, this is a crowd, just like with Mike Pence, just like with anyone who's ever said anything bad about Donald Trump, which I don't know, John, I guess I'm wondering what's he said bad?
He's been super defensive about January 6th. I don't think he's been buying literally any of the classified document stuff. I don't know. I'm not saying that if all of you were to run out there and to Google, you couldn't find something where he had criticized him, but I think that by and large, the story of the last few years has been unwavering support for Donald Trump. Like, honestly, I don't remember the topic, but I am pretty sure that Lindsey Graham has come to tears on Fox News in defense of Donald Trump. Does anyone else remember that out there? I'm pretty sure that he multiple times was crying. So we will have to look that up, but just at this point, it's not like I'm not defending Lindsey Graham because Lindsey Graham is secretly great. No, he is terrible, but he's their kind of terrible. So at this point, what does he have to do? What do you have to do to be accepted by these people?
Yeah, but I do think driving that distinction between the Matt Gaetz, the Marjorie Greene, the Lauren Boebert, right? The people who are just complete MAGA worms. Like that's all they are. It's all they've ever wanted to be. They will do and say anything. They'll, support insurrectionists. Between that and Graham and even Ted Cruz, although he was voting against certifying the election, like there's still a difference, right? They still see Lindsey Graham as somehow a rhino, right? They're afraid that Lindsey Graham will flip on Donald Trump when it's convenient, right? I mean, there's a reason Mitch McConnell won't be speaking at a rally, even though Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump agree on 99% of things.
Yeah. And of the most consequential stuff that they actually care about, tax cuts, deregulation, all that, they agree 100%.
Yes.
By the way, I looked it up, and at first I thought, oh, I was wrong because I found it a reference to Lindsey Graham breaking down in tears over people criticizing Herschel Walker. But don't worry, he's got tears for days. That was a different thing. He also broke down, I believe this was twice, 2 different days, crying about the indictment of Donald Trump. I think this was the first indictment, but he was begging people to donate money to Donald Trump's legal defense. He was in tears because he thought Donald Trump, a literal billionaire, would not have enough money to legally defend himself. Again, and that is not enough to get these people to support you. Now that was when he was called up to speak. Now you also have Donald Trump speaking and referencing Lindsey Graham. Take a look at this.
You can make mistakes on occasion. Even Lindsey down here, Senator Lindsey Graham, we love Senator Graham. We're gonna love him. We're gonna love him. I know, it's half and half, but when I need some of those liberal votes, he's always there to help me get them, okay? We got some pretty liberal people, but he's good. He's good. And again, Senator Lindsey Graham, who is really I'm gonna have to work. I'm gonna have to work on these people. I'm gonna have to. All right. He's there. He's there when you need him. He's there when you need him. I'm gonna get him straightened out. Do you mind if I come here and campaign a little bit for you? I'll tell you what. He was one of my earliest endorsements right from the go, and I appreciate it very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, at the end there, he was speaking like a rational person. It's true, Lindsey Graham was one of his first endorsements, and he wasn't doing the voice finally. Don't do the voice. He was just saying, he endorsed me and I appreciate it. He spoke like a normal, rational person. Look, the overall theme of that was supportive towards Lindsey Graham, but he was negging him constantly.
Yeah.
How does Lindsey Graham, if he has any self-esteem whatsoever, not just stand up, double, give the bird to Donald Trump and march off the stage, and that's it. You just take your tens of millions of dollars you've made through your corrupt, years as senator, and then that's it. The dude is just openly mocking you. He's a liberal. Lindsey Graham is a liberal.
No,
He's sometimes there. We need to work him over. Jesus, man, that was terrible.
First of all, Trump is a roast comic. We all know that. And he did it on purpose because he thought it was funny that Lindsey Graham was getting booed. So he just wanted to point and say, little Lindsey Graham, my boy Lindsey, and then just hear the boos and soak it in. And this is the thing about our corporate duopoly. They would rather have a fascist like Donald Trump, so long as they get to keep writing off their private jets, so long as they keep on getting the tax breaks, so long as unions don't gain any power in this country, they would rather hand their dick and balls on over to Donald Trump every day so he can keep in a little coin purse on his side. And seriously though, this is, for a party that's so concerned about masculinity, man, they are some beta dudes. That's all this is. And it's terrifying that they would rather have someone who openly mocks them, who that's a mob, right? He's entertaining his mob right now. He's entertaining his crowd, but all it takes is another January 6th, and Lindsey Graham is on the chopping block. Like Lindsey Graham is,
a literal chopping block.
A literal chopping block, an actual, shoot like, and so it's scary. Like it's funny and scary. I've never been so terrified and entertained at the same time. Thus is the Donald Trump era.
Did you make a sound effect for a guillotine? Is that what that was? A little shoop.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, we're joking, but it would be just as easy for the rioters to be yelling, hang Lindsey Graham, hang Lindsey Graham. They're out of their mind. And you're right, he is accepting it. Many of them accept this sort of thing. Some of them criticize Trump a little bit, kind of, but most of them would be perfectly happy for him to be president once again. A guy who does what you just saw, a guy who says, let me give you like a quick rundown of what these rallies are still like at this point. Take a look at this mashup.
Charging a former president of the United States under the Espionage Act of 1917. Espionage. As Putin said, you are the most vicious president ever. There's never been a president that did this to me, and yet I got along with him, isn't it not? I am not a stupid person. Number one, I'm an honest person, so I wouldn't do it anyway. But when people are on the phone, including many lawyers, do you think many people were on that phone? Many people. Do you think I'm going to say what they'd like to have? And the amazing thing, because of our crazy woke society, and I hate the word woke actually, because nobody even has a real accurate description. It means a lack of common sense more than anything else. But because of
Okay, at least he's trying to define it. It's a terrible definition. It doesn't make any sense. But I love that in his stream of consciousness, he can't help but continue to point out that the term he actively uses and will continue to use means literally nothing. It's a grift. He has to say that because Donald Trump loves doing all of this grifty stuff. But when he sees other people doing it, particularly DeSantis, who uses the term woke all the time, it starts to like get under his skin. Like it itches under his skin and he has to try to undercut it. All of that was just utter nonsense. Again, the idea that because other people were on the line with you, it means that if you committed any crimes, it's not a crime anymore. That doesn't make any sense. If Joe Biden was asking Ukraine for $5 million and Rahm Emanuel's on the line, I don't think most Republicans would be like, well, I guess he gets a pass. That's not how that works. The idea that Putin called him vicious, first of all, I don't believe. But if it did happen, I think it happened exactly like Trump said. He's calling me vicious, but we still get along. That has the same exact energy of like a used car dealer being like, oh, you really took me to the cleaners, but I guess you got it, buddy. It's got that energy of like a pat on the head. But anyway, I don't ultimately believe that it happened. He's out of his mind. What do you think, Francesca?
I think it's amazing that he's peddling that he like this guy who I would like that Putin called him vicious and he thinks that's a good thing, even though if Putin had invaded Ukraine under Trump's watch, he would have done absolutely nothing about it.
Yes.
Right? And that like when a dictator calls you vicious and you say that out loud, like, don't you think that's like, it doesn't look good on you. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, that guy's really scared of me. It's like, it sounds like, no, it kind of sounds like he's making fun of you. Kind of sounds like, oh, look at this tough guy. Just like, there's a few moments in the Trump years, the long 40 Trump years that really stick out, right? Obviously, both, bad people, good people on both sides. But that Helsinki conference with Putin, when he basically slapped his wrist, don't hack our election again. Don't do that. Don't steal our voter rolls. Vicious. He is putty in Putin's hand.
100%. Okay, well, we're gonna have to continue to deal with that as the election goes on. Right now, I'm more interested in the people who are allowing this to continue to still be a thing, and so want to find out what they think. Thankfully, the world has Michael Shore. Michael Shore travels to these rallies and just in a very level-headed way, asks Trump fans what they think and why they think it. Take a look at this.
Is there anything that could happen with him indictment-wise that would say, all right, maybe this disqualifies him for president?
Not for me. I'm with him to the finish.
All right, thank you so much.
He could stand on the front steps of the White House and commit murder, and I'm with him.
But should you be? These people are very enthusiastic about supporting someone who's a murderer. I suspect, I don't know that individual, I'm not gonna speak for that guy, but I think some of the people saying they would support him if he were to murder someone aren't so much saying they would support him if he were to murder someone, but kind of like the idea of supporting him if he were to murder someone. They seem very comfortable with it. But anyway, Michael asks a follow-up to that guy, so let's do a little bit more from that gentleman and then we'll discuss.
Explain that to me. That's amazing. I mean,
look, he's the only man we've ever had in my lifetime that stood for America as president. Now, I was a George Herbert Walker Bush man and all that, but they don't anybody compare to Donald Trump. He loves this country, and that's why I love him.
We had somebody earlier tell us that if Trump was standing on the steps of the White House and murdered someone, he'd still vote for him. Same with you?
Mm-hmm.
How come?
I don't know. I like Trump. He just got something about him.
I don't think it's true. But even if he is, I just have that much respect for him and his love for America and him wanting to make it great again that I would still vote. Absolutely.
I don't believe it for a second. He may do a few things, and yeah, he might like women. What man don't? But there's all kinds of things that he might do. But is he going to go against the country? No, he's already proven for 4 years he can do the job. So put the man there that can do the job.
Look, I like that these Trump fans were willing to talk to someone that they probably suspected was not a big fan of Trump or whatever, but he likes women. What man don't? Yeah, but look again, it's not about this individual because I don't know, maybe she's not a Christian or whatever. Maybe she doesn't use the Bible as a bludgeon against people she disagrees with, but I don't know, how you like women kind of matters to a lot of Christians. I believe traditionally they believe that cheating is a bad thing, I think. Some of the comments about your daughter and stuff, they generally frowned upon in my experience. And then you get into he'll make America great again. Nobody had a good response to that. None of them knew what to say. He loves America is about as specific as most of these people are willing to get. And they're doing their best. Life is complex. I'm not begrudging them that it's difficult to have, a mastery of all different areas of policy or whatever. But when you combine having no ability to really explain why it is that they support a guy, and then also saying that you're willing to support him regardless of how many crimes he commits, and indeed, even if you see him murder someone, then that makes me worry. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, behind closed doors, the answer to the rest of that question, the real answer is he supports white America. He supports an America there has a lot of subtext, and we're on the precipice of the 4th of July, and that truly means he supports white supremacist patriarchy, and that's what we believe. He doesn't believe in equality, and that's good. We preferred it when Black Americans were subjugated, right? Hey, maybe Jim Crow was good. Maybe we roll back desegregation. Maybe we just keep going. Who knows with this Supreme Court? That is the subtext, and that's what they're going for. And look, the fact that they all supported, I liked Herbert Walker Bush, I like George W. But no, it is Trump is the only president who was like, you know what? I'm gonna swallow all the dog whistles and then shoot them out my butt right at your face. That is what he did as president, and guess what? It won. And instead of drawing a line, the Republican Party was like, I think we'll go with the full-blown racism because we're losing our grip on power. We've completely rig the system in minority rule favor, in rich white guy favor, and we're still losing, and we can't even win, honestly. So we'll take away the ability for people to vote, whatnot, purge some rolls, do voter suppression, and then we'll run just a Klansman without the hood. And that is exactly what that is. So I keep on saying it. Y'all can still be racist without Donald Trump, but you know what? No one does it quite like Trump does, do they?
Yeah. That's why none of the others are able to break through. I don't actually wish this, but like I hypothetically wish that I could like mind meld with them, like in Star Trek, and really understand, how do you watch the last 7 years, 8 years, 50 years? How many years has it been? It's been a long time. And come away thinking of all of the politicians, the one that loves the country is Trump. He loves America in some ill-defined, definition or whatever. Not himself. He doesn't care about himself. He doesn't want attention and praise and money and to be able to get away with doing literally anything he wants with no consequences. He would never do any of that stuff. That would be selfish, and he's not selfish. He loves America. I don't understand how you could possibly, even if you like Donald Trump, I would prefer that you like him honestly for what he actually is. A guy who is generally there to feed you red meat, horrible, racist, transphobic, Islamophobic, misogynistic red meat, while delivering for the wealthy and corporations, and then implying that at least in a symbolic way, he will raise you and people like you back to the top of the hill again. Now, he's not doing that because he loves America. He's doing that because he loves power, and he thinks the way that he can get power is by getting enough of you people who he definitely thinks of as rubes and yokels to vote for him. But you could still support that. Why do you have to make up a fake version of him? I don't support Bernie because he's a cuddly teddy bear. Like you don't actually have to disconnect yourself from reality. Anyway, final thoughts before we move on.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's it's a bucket of crabs in this country, sadly, and especially for white Americans who believe that if they can elect someone who will undo any kind of racial equality, then they win, even if it's just the ability to, I don't know, keep a job for an extra month. And again, we got to remember, guys, it's the 99% versus the 1%. It's not black versus white. It's not anything else. And if we can call our relatives this 4th of July, maybe who are of that mindset, and remind them that the corporations are the real enemies, that'd be helpful, y'all.
100%. I wish, I don't know how many days we have until we get back to a period where there is a significant real hope that a progressive will be in charge. We've had that several times over the last decade. I don't know when it's gonna come again. We're not getting it in this race. I don't know what could possibly happen between then and the next race that we would have it, but I want that. I want the conversation to be driven by someone who actually cares about what's happening and has real solutions to fixing real problems.
We're gonna get into that.
I wish we could just fast forward to that. We're gonna get into that way.
No, we're gonna get into that later because I think actually, it's relevant to what we just saw. We're in really dangerous territory, John. I mean, we make fun of Trump's rallies, but I think the last 4 days, 5 days have proven that if Biden doesn't change his tune real quick, we're effed.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm eager to have that conversation. And in fact, I think I now know what you're referring to there, and we will be talking about that. For now, though, thank you to Michael Shore. By the way, other interviews will be going up at Rebel HQ. You should be subscribed to Rebel HQ, and you get to see a whole lot more where that came from. We'll be back in just a few. Okay, so comment just came in. Jasper Cat says 2020 has the potential to be progressive leaning. AOC will be of age then. Also, I can see someone like Fetterman running. Sure, I mean, I have no doubt that Buttigieg / Harris / Gavin Newsom / some other centrist-y Democrats will try to make a run for it too. I hope that a good progressive gets it done, but also we're not going to wait until then for something, some social movement, some issue to be elevated. We need something. Look,
the people you just named, it's so funny. The people you just named are gonna, you know how far right they're gonna attack Buttigieg, Kamala, Gavin, President Gavin. Look, I don't mind Newsom's I don't mind his rhetoric. I don't mind how he actually confronts the right, but he would tack so far to the right if he ever were elected. All these people would, even Bernie would. So you gotta say, what am I gonna settle for? An actual progressive, even if they tack to the right, will still give us something. Anyway, we have comments.
Yeah. We will see. Okay, TechStan says in the members' comments, is Francesca in heaven? It's really bright there, I think, but I am kind of stoned.
No, it'll only get worse, y'all. Just tuck in.
Yeah, she's on a shuttle to the sun, and it's rapidly reaching its destination. Anyway,
Elon paid me a lot for this, so
Eileen
happy to be here.
So notice the 50, 45, 47 on his hat. So legally can't run again in 2024. I don't know what he thinks. Again, don't come here expecting consistency from Trump. Anyway, Crystal Braddon says, after an 80-hour power outage, it's so nice to come back to John and Francesca. That's awesome. I don't know what happened in an 80-hour power outage is a very significant one. My wife and I lost power a couple weeks ago for 90 minutes. And I was like, oh no, what's happening? So I can only imagine multiple days. That sounds really rough. Okay, Hoovian Scarf Dragon says, I think the white background is great for Fran, I dig it.
Just you wait. We'll check in half an hour.
You're gonna have, eventually it's just gonna be full white and you're gonna have like a source fed look going on, if you remember that. Anyway, Josh says, love you guys, glad I remember to tune in. Feels like Sunday, it will all week. Yeah, having Tuesday off is a very weird, that's a weird week, having Tuesday off. Like you come out of the weekend and then, I guess we sort of have weekend again. I don't know, it's not my preference. I think they should have just made the 4th of July Monday. I know that that's not how days work, but I wish that we'd figured something out. Anyway, okay, let's see. Fighting Gale, member for 29 months says, trans rights are human rights, take a stand. Hashtag people power is stronger than politicians. Hashtag mod love, yes, mod love, and I couldn't agree more. Okay, RoboSoul says, John signed off the pre-port calling it the main show. We thought the coup was coming from Burbank, but we were all wrong. Well, it is the main damage report show. I leave it to you as to whether it is the main show, but it's definitely the main show on this channel. Okay, Stormgriff Dragon, welcome to Tier 1 member. No, you've been here for a while. Why does it say that? I know that you've been here for a while. Thank you for your continued support. Riots 824, been here for 3 months. Thank you. Under his eye dragon says, hey, John and Franny, the MAGA Glum Fest is strong right now. Hilarious that Lindsey G was booed and Trump just rubbed his face in it. Love the suit. Thank you. Well, it's the same suit as most of the time, but I do appreciate that. Yeah, I was just trying to imagine like Bernie, like having like the head of like I don't know, Ayanna Pressley there, and he just roasts her. Like it's inconceivable that anyone else would do that. Why do they accept this? Just get.
But if it were Buttigieg, I'd be like, hell yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's the equivalent. If it were Buttigieg, and you're like, hey, you wrote a paper about me in college.
Okay, as we ended that social break, Francesca was talking about a hypothetical roast of Buttigieg by Bernie. That would be funny. It is crazy that like Buttigieg, as a young man, looks up to Bernie. Before, a lot of people, I think, were following Bernie, like to his credit. And then as he gets older, just, man, there was some potential maybe there, but.
Like, tell me that wouldn't sort of make your heart sing a little bit if Bernie was like, you didn't believe in me for a while.
It'd be funny, but Buttigieg would never be in the crowd at a Bernie rally.
That's true.
Anyway. Okay, with that said, why don't we move into some other news? Why don't we actually launch, we can launch directly into this first clip. We're gonna talk about the Supreme Court here.
The courts, if they were to proceed without any check on their power, without any balance on their power, then we will start to see an undemocratic and frankly dangerous authoritarian expansion of power in the Supreme Court, which is what we are seeing now, from the overturning of abortion rights to the ruling that discrimination and frankly stripping the full personhood and dignity of LGBTQ people in the United States. These are the types of rulings that signal a dangerous creep towards authoritarianism and centralization of power in the court.
Look, I'm glad that AOC is, continuing to beat the drum for reform of the Supreme Court. Last week, if anyone somehow has forgotten, was really, really rough when it came to the Supreme Court. Not just in terms of what they did, but how they did it and what it means that they did it. Different rulings on affirmative action, attacking the LGBTQ community, getting rid of the student debt cancellation. The Supreme Court seems to understand what virtually everyone on the right understands, which is they can't legitimately win elections. People don't agree with their positions. They can't win over people, or they don't even care to try. And so, hey, we have the Supreme Court. Why win the Senate? Why get a bigger majority on the House? Why win a presidential race when we can just have them do everything we want? And that's what they're doing. I am as worried about it as AOC. Francesca, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a devastating blow. I think that for me, the one that stands out the most has got to be the right to discriminate against LGBTQ plus people, because it opens the door for all kinds of discrimination, hatred, violence against a community that already suffers it. I think affirmative action is huge, but I do think that colleges will continue to consider race, at least I hope, in their admissions, although again, it's bad precedent. But that one is just like, what the hell? What is actually going on? To say nothing of like the student loan debt relief, and to say nothing of the fact that this is all a grand plan from far right billionaire activists who've had their sights set on the courts for decades. And what has been the response over those decades from Democrats? That resounding silence is complacency. That resounding silence is Democrats having zero plan, but absolutely knowing that this has been going on for a very long time. So what the hell? What's the counterbalance? Speaking about checks and balances, having some sort of opposition is also a check and balance. Having a functioning party that can actively combat billionaire money is also a check and balance. So AOC's absolutely right. I always look at these and I'm frustrated by, again, the lack of defense. Don't even call it offense. Call it defense from the Democratic Party that saw this coming miles and miles and years away.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like to the point where earlier this year, the judges weren't getting pushed through, because we had Feinstein just, I don't know, doing something, she's off somewhere, recovering or whatever. And from Biden's point of view, Biden, who at this point in his presidency already is reduced to hopefully getting judges passed. And that's pretty much it for what he's gonna get done. Because for him, executive orders, executive actions, he's super hesitant to do those things. He was just twiddling his thumbs. Didn't seem to particularly care that he wasn't getting the judges approved. Now, we appear to be back to that process happening. And look, to his credit, while we could certainly pick apart who these judges are, in raw numbers, he's gotten quite a few judges appointed. But in terms of having it as a focus of the party, like rhetorically really pushing for it, it isn't there talking about reform. We're highlighting AOC and we're gonna be highlighting others in a moment, because there are some in the Democratic Party that are pushing for reform to the court, making it more actually representative of the country. But for most centrist Democrats, it's not a big priority. And I want to be super clear before we move on. It's not a coincidence that it's not a big priority. It would be a focus if what the Supreme Court was doing was really bad from their point of view. From their actions, they clearly are not that bothered by what the Supreme Court is doing. And I trust their actions much more than their words. Anyway, with that said, let's move into a little bit more from AOC about her concerns over the Supreme Court.
As we've seen, not just in what we saw ruled from the majority, but even in the minority dissent written around these cases, we have justices saying that the Supreme Court is going themselves much too far. They are expanding their role into acting as though they are Congress itself. And that, I believe, is an expansion of power that we really must be focusing on. The danger of this court and the abuse of power in this court, particularly as it is related to the entanglements around conflicts of interest as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad that she mentions that, because we have all these different decisions where they're completely ignoring precedent. It is farcical, the arguments that they're making. The way that they now enshrined, a right in the Constitution to discriminate against LGBTQ people is, well, I mean, I know that like they weren't even being asked to make this website, but don't worry, you can discriminate against them, but it's not who they are. It's like a thing that they did that you think is false. So, and you say that you're totally Christian, like you seem to really believe it. So I guess that's cool. So this definitely won't be able to be spread to discrimination against other groups, but that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like they're trying to be like, well, no, I mean, you wouldn't be able to ban like, an interracial couple from staying at your motel or whatever, because that's a group that they're in. Well, then you could just say, I have like a deeply held religious belief that interracial marriage is wrong. Which is exactly as deeply held as the supposed belief that they have about same-sex marriage. So they have just opened the way for racial discrimination as well. Maybe they're okay with that. Maybe they think that they're avoiding that, but they're just making stuff up to justify discrimination that they want and to knock down social programs that they don't like. That's all that this is.
Yeah, and they're cherry picking the cases that will help them. I mean, they're cherry picking cases that should never have been elevated. I mean, how is this hypothetical circumstance of making a website for a gay couple, and by the way, like using of like people's names who didn't even know they were in this lawsuit to begin with, right? Like accusing them of submitting a request to your website company to like make a website for them when they absolutely didn't. That on its face should have been thrown out. Doesn't get thrown out. Handpicked by these, I guess, anointed, the most powerful people in our country who are not elected, but they are anointed with the help of the Senate, and of course with the help of, again, billionaire activists who've been planning their rise for a very long time now. I'm afraid is my internet crapping out on y'all?
Well, don't worry, it was a still frame, but it was a great one.
No,
I don't have any problem with the one that, yeah. Anyway, look, I'm glad that she's bringing that up. I also, and she talked about a variety of different reforms, including expansion of the court. Ro Khanna has previously been on the Damage Report. We've interviewed him about his Supreme Court reform bills. He is once again putting forward legislation that would create an 18-year term limit for justices appointed after the law was enacted. Like there's no reasonable argument against this in terms of it being unfair. It wouldn't even apply to the judges that are on the court right now. You'd still have decades of these. Amy Coney Barrett would still be on there until 2050 or whatever. But it would make it a little bit more responsive. By the way, here's a fun, pointless fact. Did you know 68% of Americans back term limits for Supreme Court justices? Doesn't matter. That might matter in a democracy, doesn't matter here. That means a significant number of conservatives, by the way, are perfectly comfortable with it. And look, at some point, we will get them on our side. All it'll take is 20 years to pass of Democrats somehow winning the presidency every single time and gradually remaking the court. And once we have a 6-3 majority, then the Republicans will be on our side.
I mean, this is the thing. This is a really rough moment, and it's really easy to get down and desperate. And so I just want to speak to that because I think a lot of us are feeling that right now. And given what you just laid out, and given that the Senate, map in 2024 is not looking good for Democrats. And also given the fact that we elect a centrist like Joe Biden and we get nothing, we get crumbs, we get things for a brief moment of time, but only because there was a once in a lifetime pandemic and then it all gets rescinded. We get a little bit of a delivering on student debt and then it gets overturned or deemed illegal by the Supreme Court. And of course, Joe Biden is not trying to expand this court, not trying to enact these term limits. And I just want to say, we are going to have to do two things in the coming years. Fight like hell outside of electoral politics. We need movements, we need grassroots organizations, we need to get our kicks, we need to get our success stories locally through maybe our workplace unions, maybe grassroots organizations in our neighborhoods, whatever you can do, because you can affect change. The federal level is a little bit effed, however, and I will just say, it doesn't mean elections do not matter and voting does not matter. We need absolutely to motivate and activate a base that has been completely disregarded by the Democratic Party that relies on our votes. Young people, people of color, women of color, black women who constantly, they're the backbone of the Democratic Party. Well, what have you done for black women? What have you done for black women? That being said, the only way to fight is through. You guys, I'm a new mom and this is what it feels like, man. Every day you're like, the only way to get through this is to go through it. We gotta get up in the middle of the night. We gotta do that hard work. We have to do this work, but we cannot put all of our eggs either in the electoral basket or out. We cannot turn our backs on elections either, because that's exactly what the right wants from us, is to be disengaged and not to vote.
Yeah, I'm always highly suspicious of supposed political strategies that, when you think about them for even a second, obviously are exactly what the right would have people do if they were in charge. And I don't generally want the right to be in charge, so I try to avoid acting in a way that they would prefer that I act. Yeah, you're right. First of all, we can't just focus on elections, because elections only happen every few years and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done in the meantime. But when the elections do come, like, just pretending that they don't matter and that handing over power to fascists for a few years has no consequences. I like to be able to say that I warned people beforehand, but also now we continue to see the results of it. It is incredibly consequential. Don't at me, look at the Supreme Court, at what they have done. But anyway, as Francesca says, just focusing on elections is also an abdication of the responsibilities that we have as citizens. Okay, with that said, I think that we're gonna take our break a little bit early, but when we come back, we have a lot to talk about, including this wildly homophobic ad from Ron DeSantis. All that and more after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there. Late Bloomer sent in a message saying, Francesca, you look angelic this morning.
I wonder why.
It is getting brighter. It does seem like you are gradually walking down the glowing tunnel.
Oh yeah, look at that. Woo.
Wait.
I don't know what just happened there. Someone tried to fix me.
Yeah, I don't, because I'm looking at your actual camera and it is not that bright. That's crazy. Okay, there we go. I don't know. I'm assuming the TD was messing with you, but anyway.
Goodbye. My work here is done. Oh no.
I must return to my people.
I must return.
The cherubim.
And with that,
anyway. Oh my God.
Guys.
LaShawn Lewis says, how this is gonna kill college sports. I'm not sure, that might be a reference to, we were talking about Joe Rogan and Ice Cube's comments about trans athletes and everything that were just ridiculous. I mean, I don't know if that's maybe a reference to that. I hate it. So much, such a big audience, such a big audience. Anyway, if you care about women's sports so much, talk about them, go to them, support them.
Yes.
You cannot only talk about them in the context of, no, they're ruining women's sports, which I've totally supported for a really long time. Anyway, Mikey says, John, be fair, he really loves women. It's good old fashioned tough love consisting of sexual assault and removing their bodily autonomy. It's his own special kind of love. Yeah, it's sick. It's a toxic love, but very popular on the right. Mikey also said to Super Chat, just wait until Trump realizes he can threaten Lindsay and other bootlickers with violence from his supporters if they don't take the legal fall for him.
Yes.
Yeah, they do. That's a lesson that they've learned coming out of January 6th. Shadow Dragon Dreamer says it was in Graham's home county. Yeah, well, I didn't know it was the home county. I knew that it was in the state. Just making a mockery.
Wild.
Like, he could go to Florida right now and do rallies in Florida and have them booing Ron DeSantis. He could totally do it.
Yeah.
He could go to Disney, Ron DeSantis's favorite place. He got married there and they would boo him.
And you know what's disgusting about this political system is that there's actually probably someone worse. There's definitely someone worse than Lindsey Graham. JD Vance is in the Senate, people. May I remind you, there will be someone worse in South Carolina. Peter Thiel will definitely find that dude, and it'll be a dude, and run them. Like, seriously, we live in hell and we're just trying to get a few levels out of this hell.
Yeah, well, and by the way, obviously I'm a little bit down today. It seems like Francesca is, despite the fact that she's in heaven. But I will also remind you, like, while it's rough right now, it could be a lot worse as of the midterm. Herschel Walker is not a senator. Blake Masters is not a senator. Mastriano is not a senator. Dr. Oz is not a senator. Carrie Lake is not a senator because a lot of good people did not buy into the BS. They did not disconnect from the system. They didn't either stop caring what happens or pretend that they don't care what happens. They stopped terrible people from getting into elected office. So thank you to everybody who was a part of that. Okay, let's see. Oh, by the way, for a long time, I've been saying we really need to have some more emojis for our awesome members on YouTube. Well, I went and made one. The Ron DeSantis pudding cup emoji is now live. I will let you fill in the blanks for why the anthropomorphized pudding cup's eyes are so wide open. But anyway, it's a pretty cute emoji, and you have access to it right now on YouTube. Hope you enjoy that. I know Ron DeSantis would. Loves that stuff. Shovels it into his mouth. Anyway, that said, Hoovian Scarf Dragon says TDR is my main show. Thank you for the support. Much appreciated. More news to come. Don't go anywhere. People are saying pudding is ruined for me now. Hey, I didn't ruin it, okay? Ron DeSantis or maybe the person who made that ad ruined it.
Who eats pudding? How old are you?
I mean, pudding's still delicious. I'm not gonna badmouth pudding, but hold. We can talk about pudding in the context of Ron DeSantis because look, the pudding stuff is fun in games, but Ron DeSantis is also a dangerous guy who has staked basically his entire candidacy on attacking members of the LGBTQ community. So to that end, here's an ad. Oh no, wait, actually I gotta set this up. Coming out of the weekend, a lot of awful people to highlight, but one in particular was making big moves when it comes to being the worst over the weekend, and thus you have your Monday Menace.
I will do everything in my power to protect our LGBTQ citizens.
If Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses.
That is correct.
In the future, can transgender women compete in Miss Universe?
Yes.
Make America great again.
Psych!
It really has shut down drag.
Just produced some of the harshest, most draconian laws that literally threaten trans existence.
Congratulations, Ron DeSantis. Mission accomplished. You win.
Okay, so that's a recent DeSantis ad from the DeSantis War Room. It's staffed by a bunch of young conservative men who dress and look like they're 45 years old. But anyway, that ad was designed to do two things. One, to make you believe that Donald Trump is tolerant towards LGBTQ people. And so obviously you can't trust him if you're conservative. And also, Ron DeSantis is not a weenie. Don't believe your lying eyes, he's cool. And I know that he's cool because we put this shirtless, oiled up, muscular guy next to him. And then, hey, we had villains. That's what the cool kids do, right? They take like the conservative guy and then they put the villain. So supposedly liberals will be mad because like, wait, don't you get that it's the villain? Are we doing the formula right? That's what the TikToks do, right? Like all of this is just such obvious try hard, like, hey, we meme. Ron DeSantis is cool. We put a beat to it. Lightning bolts out of his eyes. Is he cool yet? No, he's still a little high heel wearing weenie. There's nothing you can put in your timeline in Adobe Premiere that's gonna change that.
But American Psycho, John, American Psycho, every young millennial knows American Psycho.
That's a good point too. Like I get the reference because I'm older, but like this is not cool. He's not cool. There's nothing cool about this. But to the substance of it briefly, what do you think about his attempt to pitch Trump as being like a guy who doesn't want to utterly annihilate the LGBTQ community?
Look, I'm not gay. And so queer people in the chat, just tell me. But don't you feel like every time the right tries to make one of theirs seem super straight, it just feels real gay? Anyone just like you put enough oiled up dudes with muscles, it's gonna get gay. Like, I don't understand why the right misses this. Like, if you start worshiping like dude bodies enough,
well,
anyway, happy Pride still. Pride's all year now.
Francesca, I don't know if there's anything to what you say, but I will say there's another person who believes that something like that is going on. They seem to agree with you. Here's Pete Buttigieg.
I'm going to choose my words carefully, partly because I'm appearing as secretary, so I can't talk about campaigns. And I'm going to leave aside the strangeness of trying to prove your manhood by putting up a video that splices images of you in between oiled up shirtless bodybuilders, and just get to the bigger issue that is on my mind whenever I see this stuff in the policy space, which is, again, who are you trying to help? Who are you trying to make better off? And what public policy problems do you get up in the morning thinking about how to solve?
None. I think I answered that for him. Anyway, good appearance by Pete Buttigieg. I mean, I would ask the same questions to him, and I suspect I know policy-wise who he would support. I mean, look, obviously on these issues, he'd be a million times better than Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump. But we'll return to the economic stuff if and when he runs for president again. But he is right. It is weird to be like, first of all, vote for me because I hate gay people more than even Trump does. Trump is actively attacking viciously with lies and misinformation gay and trans people on a daily basis. So I don't see how that's not good enough for the right at this point. But also the like splicing the images of more attractive, cooler guys around you to make you seem cooler is not the flex that you think it is.
Yeah, but
it's literally
dropping a house beat. Like, let's just, let's put house. There's nothing straighter than a house beat. Go.
That's also true. And who thinks that Ron DeSantis listens to that? This is literally a thing that Michael Scott did in an episode of The Office. He put images of him and then images of shirtless men with six packs back and forth so that you wouldn't be sure who is turning you on. That's what Ron DeSantis just did. It's not as cool as his team seems to think it is.
No.
Anyway.
No, good on. I want to see non-Secretary Pete Buttigieg talk about what he really thinks. But yes,
yeah,
it just talk
about what he thinks and then not run for president. Anyway, oh God. So like, by the way, I warned people like a year or two ago that this is what the Republican primary was going to be. It was, oh yeah, they'll do some stuff about the wall and they'll do some stuff about caravans. They'll be super racist. Don't even worry about that. But no, it's gonna be homophobia, but mostly transphobia. That is what the base gets most rabid about, and so that is the battlefield that this primary is going to be waged on.
And I just want to
absolutely disgusting.
I do want to say that I think something's happened in the last few years in the Republican Party and the turn that they've made away from actually, embracing gay people in their midst. And I know, we have the log cabin Republicans spoke out about this ad, but you saw a lot of, identified gay, yes, white cis guys support Donald Trump and support MAGA, Milo Yiannopoulos, for example, other Milo Yiannopoulos wannabes and whatnot. And it was like, hey, look, as long as we're all together, sort of against, Black Americans and women, then aren't we accepted into it? And largely that was true. And I think that's why Donald Trump early in the campaign and early in his presidency did embrace the gay community. And that has completely changed. And it's awful, but it's also a reminder that ultimately the Republican Party does stand for white supremacist capitalist patriarchy, and part of that patriarchy is absolutely heteronormative BS. And so we are all in the same soup. And look, man, you cannot cut yourself out and say, oh, but yes, I hate everyone, but the gays are fine. No. We're all in it together, and we all need to crush this thing together.
Exactly, 100%. Absolutely disgusting. Okay, we're gonna move on. I was gonna say lighten things up in some ways, I guess, from an ad like that. As we close out this hour, whenever ready, let's jump into this. I've often criticized the idea that Elon Musk is a genius, but it is possible that I am not giving enough credit. It takes a truly dynamic mind to continue to find new ways to ruin the experience of being on Twitter on a weekly basis. And he really outdid himself this weekend, Elon Musk, announcing that Twitter will be temporarily limiting the number of posts that users can read per day to address, quote, concerns over data scraping. And I wish that I could put those in extra quotes because that's what he said. Have you considered the possibility that he's a big old liar? I don't know. People in the media don't even seem to consider that possibility. But let's briefly, regardless of motivation, let's briefly stop and consider in the many, many years that all of you have been on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and MySpace and whatever, name a social media site. Have you ever heard them limiting the raw number of posts you can see? So add this to the long list of things where a website that used to just work now is less than it used to be. You take an infusion of the biggest genius billionaire in the world, and suddenly its ability to even exist as other social media sites do is just gone. So look, he said, bear in mind also, they recently stopped unregistered users from reading tweets at all, something that you used to be able to do. So again, free speech sure is a hell of a thing in a variety of ways. But he said that several hundred organizations were taking Twitter's data in a process called scraping, and that it was, quote, affecting the real user experience. First of all, you know what affects the real user experience? Being blocked from reading tweets after 600, having hashtag rate limited suddenly apply to your account. Those organizations scraping data, that has been true the entire time that Twitter has existed. It was never a problem until Elon Musk took over, if this is even what the issue is. And there are very strong reasons to believe it's not. We'll get into those, but Francesca, what do you think?
The just galaxy brain, it's just so good, dude, because like, I swear it's gonna be good. Just give it time, John. Like the money, like I know it seems like this would be the opposite thing you would do were you to take control of Twitter and buy it for way too much money. But like just wait. Everyone's gonna come crawling back. Cause you know what people do when they like go to Twitter and they can't see anything because they're either logged off and they need to make an account. They go somewhere else. They go somewhere else. They don't make an account. They just go somewhere else. He's so stupid. Twitter has become everything that Elon Musk claimed it was before. There are too many bots. Oh my God, how many bots are there now? It's insane, right? Especially if you're a dude. Yeah. All your like other DMs or whatever are just like some, random face Korean woman being like, "Do you want a girlfriend?" Like that's all it is. And like 600 tweets. I don't have that problem, John, because I am not on Twitter enough. I'm barely on Twitter. But if you really, all your diehard fans, all the people who are on Twitter, who are helping your thing stay afloat, they go through way more than 600 tweets. You need them to stay. They're not going to be staying because they're not going to be paying, right? It's so stupid that even we understand. Like anyone with basic understanding of like how social media platforms work, which is getting free users and then getting them to pay more. Like they know that this is ridiculous, or selling them ads,
or advertising to them,
or advertising, and they're jumping ship.
Yeah, let's not go to the graphics because I want to stay where we're at. But yeah, their ad revenue is down like 59% from the previous year. So great job in the money department as well. But yeah, like. It's not difficult to imagine why he's having problems. And the problems I don't even think are scraping. Like, is it possible that he voluntarily did this? Sure. Is that necessarily why suddenly you couldn't see more than a few tweets? No, there are other explanations. The explanation is instability. That the website is getting overburdened now that it doesn't have engineers to maintain its systems. A lot of people noted that it was interesting that like at 9 a.m. East Coast time on the 1st of the month, they suddenly had massive problems sharing the website to people. Almost seems like maybe the fact that he is routinely not paying his providers for different services and all that might be a problem. But like when like this tweet, this screenshot, if we could bring up graphic 3, to me is everything you need to know about the myth of the genius CEO. So he says that they're limiting accounts to 6,000 posts a day. People complain. He quote retweets it. Now it's 8,000. People still complain. Now it's 10,000. This is not how it's supposed to work. This is not how you're supposed to run a website. Even the paying people are limited. Like these people really believe that he cared about free speech and all that. The fact that for their tweets to even be seen, they now need to pay him should have been enough evidence that that's not true. But now, even if they pay him, they can't see unlimited tweets that they were always able to see. They have significantly less speech, even paying this wealthy guy than they used to. And is that gonna get through to them? I suspect not. Because when I tweeted that this is how businesses are supposed to be run, one of his fans replied, definitely yes, if your income is generated by people mindlessly scrolling for hours, you have to put a limit on that. Like a good parent, you limit the use of social media and send these kids somewhere else. All this advertising isn't good for any of us. What are you even talking about?
What?
He wants you to read more because he wants to sell ads. They will go to any lengths to defend Elon Musk. Honestly, the cult might be as durable as Donald Trump's, and I don't understand it. We're unfortunately over time. We're gonna talk more after the break, so don't go anywhere. Thank you everyone on linear platforms and on the podcast. There's more to come. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Aftermath, everybody. I'm John Iadarola. We've got Francesca Fiorentini still in the house. We're gonna be doing our top 10 list coming up soon. It's going to be the top 10 things that you might think you'll be able to finally get done during parental leave when you have a little bit of time potentially, but probably will be too exhausted to actually do. This is her actual experience from last year and my predictions for what will come in a couple months when I take my leave. So excited to talk babies with you, Francesca. Babies, you've got one. You've got some experience. Okay. Also, reminder: we're gonna be rolling out more emojis. I see the Puddin one in the chat, so we're getting it done. By the way, if you're horrified by this emoji that we've just rolled out, I understand. But I've asked you for suggestions, and y'all left me hanging. So I gave you a horror show.
Is there something else? Is there a me emoji yet?
There's been a Francesca emoji forever.
Oh hell yeah.
Wait, although I'm looking now and
see.
No, there was a random old. Yes, no. You're emoji number 4. Literally after me, you're the first emoji. So yes, you exist.
I need to be in the chat more often.
You do. Okay, I'm gonna read a few comments. We're gonna jump into some other news. Nov 1775 Jim says, so these rallies are the same as saying count me out. Well, count me out for critically analyzing what politicians do and not caring about what they've done. But anyway, Sela Daguran says, remember the January 6th mob temporarily turned on Cruz when they misunderstood some docs on his desk. I actually am not familiar with that particular aspect. I thought I knew pretty much all of this. I don't know that one. James Thompson says space football. I don't even know what that's a reference to. I'm sure it was something, but I apologize, my brain is mush. Bernie the Huey Dragon says, stupid Elon, I'm subscribed to AOC, Bernie, Corbyn, but instead whose tweets keep getting showcased on my phone, foolish Bober and Vile Green. Yeah, well that's the thing, like it has been, it was already Twitter made to advantage the right. Now in every way that it can, that's who they promote. Regardless if you don't follow anyone like that, that's who they're telling you should follow. If you make a new account instantly, that's who you should follow. They're obviously algorithmically amplifying certain types of accounts and not others. People have said repeatedly, like I don't care particularly. I'm not making myself out to be a martyr. That like searching for me, they can't find me and stuff like that. So it's just everybody knows the game that's being played here. Okay, with that said, I think it's time to jump into some news. So stand by, it's time for AI.
I will be back. Hasta la vista. Calculating cyber operations. Sorry, John. I'm afraid I can't do that.
We're worried about misinformation coming out of AI in a number of different ways. Visual misinformation, in some ways, even more dangerous because it can be very convincing and people, they want to believe crazy things that work with their worldview. So to test how people who want to scam others might be able to do this, one man decided to do a little bit of an experiment in Midjourney, and he was actually banned for it, which might be the only good news here, maybe. This is Justin Brown who says, I got banned from Midjourney for generating realistic images of politicians cheating on their wives for a series called AI Will Revolutionize the Black Male Industry. I think a lot of people are worried about exactly this sort of misinformation, both inside and out of politics. So here is how convincing it already is. Every one of these images is fake if that's not clear from the title of the video, the label. That is Trump cheating with somebody. Mike Pence stepping out behind mother's back right there. You've even got Bernie Sanders. By the way, I love that they know Bernie's appeal with younger voters, so they instantly put a younger voter with him. Even Barack Obama there. And so once he started posting these on Reddit, that is when he was banned from the platform. So he doesn't know if he hadn't posted them on Reddit if he would have been banned. And these are already easy to produce. Now, are these super convincing? Should a rational person believe that these are true? Perhaps not. But you know how the internet is. People have believed far worse, far less evidence, and staked their entire worldview on it. So, Francesca, what do you think?
I mean, I have to.
That's what I think.
Like the Bernie one, actually more disturbing than I thought. Like I love Bernie, but I don't want to see him kissing anybody like that and a naked woman, and she looked really young, and that was weird. It's like I guess somehow like Trump kissing a dude is actually far less disturbing than kissing a woman. I'm like, maybe the power dynamic is a little more equal in that one, but I don't want to see any of these politicians making out with anybody, to be honest with you. And this definitely is on the cusp of deep fake porn, which absolutely should be outlawed. It is incredibly invasive of privacy. It is, and it should be banned. So we need more protections on all kinds of technology when it comes to, yes, faking someone doing something that they did not consent to. And AI really should be no different. We just do not have the legislative tools to actually combat this. We have to rely on something like Midjourney booting this person off. And now, I love the sentiment, bro. You can draw it. Like, if you draw it, like, this is not going to, I mean, you're free to use your artistic talent to do this. But in terms of this kind of stuff, it looks far too realistic. And I think it would fall and should fall in something like, deep fake porn, which we still don't have legislation around, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, I mean, these are obviously a little bit more tame than I think you're talking about, but that's arguably kind of what it is potentially.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're not clear that it's fake, like, it could be used to potentially blackmail people. And maybe politicians, some would be a little bit less worried about that, but what if it could do regular people? I'm very concerned about the rise of that sort of thing. When it comes to the politicians, though, the thing for me is, we just talked earlier in the show, Michael Shore was interviewing people at a Trump rally, and every single one of them believes that it is already established truth that Joe Biden got $5 million from China or Ukraine or both. They're not really sure, but they believe both. If this image was spread on, like, cat turd spread it or something, and Elon Musk likes it or whatever, they will all believe that it's true until the day they die. There will be nothing that you can do that will get them to not believe that it's true. These are some of the most gullible, ready to believe misinformation people in the history of our species. And I feel like this stuff is going to become so common. And not just attacking people like Bernie Sanders or whatever. Like, you don't think that Trump is gonna make images of Ron DeSantis kissing a guy and spread, or vice versa, like the rabid homophobia on the right, I feel like is going to be weaponized, and not just in the future, in this race that we're in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think again, it's creepy and dangerous, and you don't have to be stupid. I mean, like, you could just be a boomer. One time my mom relayed what she thought was like a video of a baby bear being rescued after falling down a whole waterfall escaping a cheetah. It was like a whole thing. And I'm like, Mom, that's not a viral video that someone just captured on screen. That's like the movie Bear. Remember, there's like an old movie Bear. I was like, that was like a stunt coordinator with a bunch of like zoo kept little black bears.
Was the bear on cocaine?
Yeah, pretty much. No, but there was an old
video.
Movie. Chat needs to back me up. There's an old movie about bear. I'm like, but my mom is not a dumb person. She just is not.
You're thinking of The Great Outdoors.
Pretty much. I once saw a man shoot a bear in the butt, and then it exposed just an actual butt. Bears have like a little butt crack that looks human.
Yeah,
it's amazing. I saw it online. It's like, no, that's The Great Outdoors.
I saw a guy getting shot at, and he dodged the bullets. It was sick.
He just bent backwards.
It was such a viral video that they played it in theaters. It was it really broke through. So yeah, you're right. But again, I think there's some crossover between some people who, because they came to technology later in life, don't necessarily have the same critical thinking apparatus or whatever. It's difficult to know. My grandfather, he never trusted online shopping because he was 80 when it came out. So he always believed it was a lie, it was a scam. So I get that. But then also you have millions of people, and not all of them are conservatives, who do not believe things because they go out there, they gather all the data, and then they come to a conclusion. They are a ball of wants. They want to believe things, and they look for things that confirm it. They want to believe that Joe Biden is having gay affairs or whatever. They desperately wanted to believe it about Obama, and so they will readily accept this sort of stuff. Anyway, with that said, We do have a big meanwhile in coming up. So let's briefly just talk about this. This is like the tech half hour on the show. Let's jump into this next one. The FAA has apparently, for the first time ever, approved test runs for a flying car. So everyone buckle up, literally and metaphorically. You can pre-order it, actually. The test runs are not done yet, but you can pre-order it, and it's supposedly coming in 2 years. Here you can see the company car right now. It's Model A from Aleph Aeronautics, fully electric, the first of its kind to be approved by the FAA. And the CEO says, we're excited to receive this certification from the FAA. It allows us to move closer to bringing people an environmentally friendly and faster commute, saving individuals and companies hours each week. This is one small step for planes, one giant step for cars. I think we have a little bit of video of the initial unveiling. Take a look.
Introducing Aleph Flying Car, the first real flying car in history.
Every single part of that made me think, no, I'm not doing that. No offense, but no, I'm not getting that. Anyway, they say that it's safer than helicopters, planes, and regular cars, as well as being environmentally friendly. Can we put up this photo? This is like a promotional image of it. And my advice would be, don't use this image because that doesn't help, I don't think. I don't know what that's supposed to prove, but it doesn't prove anything to me. If it's 2 people, it'll be priced around $300,000, although they want to work on another model, the Model Z, that would cost $35,000 that could hold 4 to 6 people, set to be released in 2035. And totally unrelated to all that, Francesca, before you jump in, did you know, this is totally unrelated, different topic, that you can just say whatever you want? Did you know that? You could just say that you're gonna do something and it's gonna cost whatever, and it doesn't have to be true, it turns out. I've seen people do it before. Anyway, what do you think of this?
All I think is public transportation, please. Public transit, please. That's all we want.
Flying bus?
We just want an actual, can we get cable cars back in San Francisco? The traffic is insane there. Can we get light rails? Can we get trains that don't derail, please? High speed rail that don't derail, please. Of course, the FAA is gonna approve something that really is just another toy for rich people. This is so ridiculous. And the way that these things get unveiled and rolled out is also so problematic and disturbing. The other day, like I said, I'm visiting San Francisco, and the city is completely replete with driverless cars that have just been unleashed onto the roads. The other day, a friend of mine almost got hit by one, and then we almost ran into one head on. It stopped, but there's nothing creepier than driving past a car and trying to see who's in the driver's seat because they almost ran into you, and it's nobody. Yep. And you damn well bet
that'll be that, but flying.
And the people of the cities where they test this thing out on did not consent, did not vote, did not give their affirmative that yes, they would like their city to become a playground for this, I don't know, this dude who looks like he's really trying to get you to his club before 3 a.m. so you get the drink special. This is a dude who buys a bottle, so he's like, I got, I don't want to do it. I'm like, I don't want to do his accent, but I want to do his accent.
No, I don't know if he owns the club. I'm sure if he does, it's probably a great house beat. Ron DeSantis is dancing to the background. But anyway, look, someday these will be a thing, perhaps. It'll probably be just a tool for the uber wealthy. And honestly, maybe that's for the best because my experience with people driving regular cars in LA, I do not want them being able to fly. I don't trust people with the vehicles we have these days. But anyway, it's available in late 2025, they say. Okay, with that said, we need to move on to our last story. Are we ready to go? Okay, sounds good. Let's do it. And now for news from around the world. And meanwhile, in. Rioters continue to clash with an increasing number of police as well as other members of law enforcement in France. Multiple days of unrest caused by what is believed to be potentially the race-influenced, or race-based killing of a 17-year-old boy in a Paris suburb. I mean, I don't even know what these numbers would be today. It probably much higher, but as of the weekend, over 700 people had been arrested already. Tens of thousands of law enforcement on the streets. A lot of people being arrested. Now, this all started because of Nahel, identified only by his first name, killed by a single shot from a police officer during a traffic stop Tuesday morning. The legal team representing his family haven't said whether it believes race was a factor in the shooting, but there have been growing concerns over the past few years about an increase in police killings that are not in any way racially, representative of the actual population in those areas. The numbers are still way lower than in the United States. We're talking about dozens of killings as opposed to hundreds in the United States, but a lot of people are sick and tired of it. They hate that this has been, allowed to continue, and there's been a lot of rioting for about a week now. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that there has been a global Black Lives Matter movement taking some inspiration from this country, but then again, in France and in Europe, a country with its own racism, let's be real. And especially when it comes to the ways that I think children of migrants and migrants themselves are treated differently, are ghettoized, are also in a way pressured and into assimilation, right? And there aren't enough inclusive programming and programs for them. So it's a little bit like, leave everything at the door. You're French now, right? We're gonna erase your history. You're French now. We're gonna over police you because you're French now, without sort of again embracing. I mean, I think French Muslims feel this way, or immigrants who are Muslim feel that way in France a lot. And so yeah, look, I wouldn't be surprised if someone from the NYPD, like good old Raymond Kelly, weren't advising the French police on this. He was a former commissioner of the NYPD. The United States loves to export our police tactics and our violence and our militarism to police forces around the world.
Yeah, and by the way, over especially the last 5-10 years, France has been the site of some of the biggest protests. Again, I don't know necessarily if they've generally been in this area. Usually it's economic. They're worried about retirement age and all that, but they've been the site of some massive protests. So it's weird that the government is being so slow in rolling out any proposed reforms or anything. It seems that they think that they can just crack down harder and that'll be the solution. I don't think that history would imply that that's the case, but we'll see. And meanwhile, in Israel, an absolutely massive mobilization, aerial and ground offensive into the West Bank in the city of Jenin. At least 8 Palestinians had already been killed as of when we were preparing for this segment. 50 injured, 10 seriously. The death toll obviously likely to rise. There have been drone strikes. There have been thousands potentially of soldiers being moved in this area, armored bulldozers, snipers entering both the city as well as a refugee camp. And look, there has been increasing violence for some time after a period that was a little bit more stable. We're now seeing escalations like this. Francesca, what do you make of it?
I mean, I'm just glad we're talking about it and covering it, because it seems like, I remember last year we talked a lot about, basically the flash grenades being thrown into the Al-Aqsa Mosque during Ramadan, and that only continued this year, and it didn't grab the headlines that it did last year. And then things like this, these incursions, these aerial incursions using drones. Speaking of exporting, all kinds of American defense systems and technology used to suppress an entire people, Israel does that incredibly. In fact, they do it with our tax dollars. They do it on their own. One thing, whenever you argue against the occupation and you talk about, human rights violations like this, like people of Jenin trying to live as if they aren't already surrounded by checkpoints, surrounded by the Israeli military, is, but all the innovation that Israel does. Think of all the innovation. You know what that innovation is? It's how can we denigrate and control a population better and more efficiently than we were doing it last year. And here they are getting their rocks off once again, terrorizing the Palestinian people.
100%. Yeah. And honestly, like aside from the inclusion now of the drones, it just feels like a headline that could have been there a year ago or 5 years ago or 20 years ago or 5 years in the future or 20 years in the future. God forbid. We will see.
And what's Biden doing about it? I think the final thing is just.
Oh, he's not going to.
Joe Biden.
He's not going to do anything.
They
alerted the White House that this assault was going to happen.
He has continued Trump policies without Trump being in office.
In a number of different areas. And meanwhile, in Brazil, bad news for former President Jair Bolsonaro. Electoral judges have ruled that he is not eligible to run for office for 8 years due to abusing his powers and peddling immoral and appalling lies. This is the sort of thing I could get behind normalizing in our hemisphere, but Bolsonaro, a guy who did basically everything he could in rhetoric and apparently in action too, to try to move that country on from democracy, now at least until appeal will be barred. What do you make of it?
I mean, I think this is beautiful. This is beautiful and brilliant.
You'd like this.
This is the best news ever. And yes, Bolsonaro is a homophobic fascist who was only increasing the amount of deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon for a bunch of reasons. I think this is good. The only problem I have with this is that, to my knowledge, Bolsonaro has not been convicted of a crime, right? And so I'm like, look, I do believe that courts, not just in this country, but around the world, have been politicized. And courts are often used sort of ping-ponging, depending on who's in power, to sort of enact retribution on your opposition. So again, I'm so happy that this decision has come down, but I'm also like, what is the true basis other than him being a horrible POS? We need that in this country for a president, a former president, who's gonna go on number 3, 4 by the time the actual election rolls around. Trump might be indicted on like 4 or 5 criminal different sets of criminal charges
of indictments, exactly. And we'll see if our judicial system can reach the same conclusion with probably a lot more evidence to use if they so choose. That is unfortunately all the time we have for the show today, though. Francesca, as always, it's a pleasure to have you here. Everyone can check out, I'm assuming, the Bitchuation Room tomorrow or no?
No, they cannot.
It's
we are off tomorrow, even though there's so much to talk about. But there will be a Friday bonus bish at Franny Fio on YouTube and Twitch.
Okay,
follow me at TikTok, because we're going to TikTok and Blue Sky, y'all, at Franny Fio. Blue Sky, TikTok, holler.
Okay, and we'll be doing our top 10 list. That'll be out soon. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back on Big News Wednesday with J.R. Jackson. For now, though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.